What's up, guys? Jeff here, Mad Hatter's Reef. Today we're going to be taking a look at acclimating fish and inverts. Mostly going to take a look at it from two different standpoints, whether you go to your local fish store, buy it there, which I would hope that if you guys are in a situation where you have a local fish store that you're supporting them. But we're also going to take a look at it for those of you that potentially are buying fish online and having them shipped to you. And really there's two situations that can happen there. The fish arrives alive and well, or it arrives in a situation where it's struggling. We're going to take a look at some things that you can do to get your fish the best chance possible in that circumstance. So let's get after it.
One of the first steps anytime that you are drip acclimating any fish or invert into your system, you're going to want to make sure that it is topped off at the appropriate salinity. And if you are using an auto top off, to make sure that it is unplugged or turned off so that it isn't going to dump a bunch of fresh water into your aquarium. And one thing that has not changed for me, even with owning a fish store, is that waiting for a delivery is still very, very hard to do.
All right, so we got our delivery, just a small little fish order this week. Actually, it's predominantly inverts, but we got probably our fish and inverts in here, a little bit of spillover, and I'm going to assume that this is some pods. I do culture pods here at the store, but it's good to refresh the population every now and again. So pods, snails, inverts, hermit crabs, and a few fish. All right, so we got our boxes. I'm going to be opening them up, and then we are going to float everybody in our systems that they're going to be going into. The inverts will go into the invert system. The fish will go into the new arrival fish systems, and we'll get everybody temperature acclimated and then move on to drip acclimation.
A lot of times in the extremes of the season, whether it be winter or summer, I do like to open the boxes relatively quickly, even if I'm not going to get to them right away. And that's just to make sure that they're not in a situation of dealing with a extreme temperature, and you might want to give them a little bit more time just with the air in the room to allow them to adjust to a more normal temperature.
So a big part of when you are unboxing stuff is just taking a look at the overall health. A lot of times if the water is clear, it's in good shape. If the water is discolored, especially with inverts, it's probably something going on. But basically we're going to make sure that they're sticking to stuff in good shape, and then we're going to add them to the systems with the lights off and let them float for about 20-30 minutes. All right, so we got our inverts floating here. The lights don't kick on for like another 20 minutes or so, but we're going to go ahead and shut the lights off these two systems, just to make sure that we're not having any greenhouse effect happening inside the bag while we let them float, because we just got them in here. I want to float them for about 30 minutes. The lights are going to kick on before then, and we're going to go ahead and shut those lights off so that we're not basically increasing the temperature in the bags. Not too many fish. They get a blonde naso in, yellow watchman, and then a coral beauty. So we will be able to show you how to go about drip acclimating a fish that is distressed, and we'll talk about some of the products involved with that, and then we'll go through and drip acclimate all our inverts. All right, so we got everything in the tanks. They've been temp acclimated. Now we are going to grab some buckets and some AccuDrips and start acclimating the inverts into the system that we have here. All right, so we got the inverts in the buckets. We got the drip acclimators, dripping, kind of more stream than a drip. And really that kind of leads us into the next part of the conversation. So we temperature acclimated the inverts, and then we move them into a bucket, isolated, no temperature other than the water that's going in there. And there's a certain threshold between allowing them to kind of change over from the display water or quarantine system water from the shipping water. And you know, my school of thought has changed over. It used to be drip 45 minutes. That's how I did it. Now it's more about 30 minutes, and we're doing a fast changeover. And really, I'm going to do that with any invert that I am having shipped to me. If it's a invert that I'm buying from the local fish store, I probably would go ahead and do that drip acclimator or drip acclimation method. But a lot of times with the shipped animals, I try to move them a little bit quicker.
So the goal for the inverts is to have them in there for about 30 minutes. I like to at least double the water volume during that time. And if need be, if it's going a little bit faster, I will remove some of the water and use a 5-gallon waste bucket. Once they have about 30 minutes of acclimation time and the water has at least doubled, I will add them to the system.
All right, so now we need to get these guys going. Got our buckets ready to go. All we need to do is get our drip acclimators, and we'll be able to get those guys started. So this is going to be a two-part process with these guys. One, we're going to look at in a way in which that if you're at your local fish store and you just bought your fish, bringing it home and acclimating it. And then also fish 2, we will be taking a look at how we would go about receiving a fish from shipping overnight and how we would go about treating that one. I use different drip acclimators for the fish that are in those containers, aquariums, because I'm running chemicals in there. I'm running copper, I'm also running formalin, and I don't want to use my acclimators that I use for my inverts and bouncing stuff back and forth. So it's different buckets, different acclimators to get these guys set up in the tanks.
Everything must be kept separate.
Now, as far as using the drip acclimator for fish that you picked up at your local fish store, using the actual controller is going to be perfectly fine in that scenario. You want to, just like you did with the inverts, float them for about 20 minutes for temperature acclimation in the bag. And then once that 20 minutes is over, get out your bucket, get your drip acclimator, get a drip going, and just follow the process. I would allow them to drip acclimate for about 30 minutes, hoping to, at the very least, double that water volume before adding them to the tank.
So if you want to take a look at the drip acclimator from Innovative Marine, I've put a video together for that, so I'll put a link to that in the description below. All right, so let's say that we had a fish that we shipped to our house and it's in pretty rough shape when it gets there. A lot of times what happens when you open up that bag is the pH, which has been super low pretty much the entire time for the shipping process, is going to increase dramatically because you're putting fresh air into the bag. And the problem with that is it basically turns the ammonia into acid. It doesn't turn it into acid, but the ammonia, which hasn't been very impactful to the fish, is basically going to start burning the fish. And a lot of times, if you were to do the drip acclimation or aerate the fish that you're acclimating, you're going to run into some problems. So what I've started to do in a situation where I have a fish that shows up that is in bad shape is put some prime to it. Seachem prime not only removes chlorine, but it also detoxifies ammonia, NO2, and NO3. I've actually literally had fish that are in horrible shape that I'm surprised that they were lived and pulled through using this method. And basically, all you need is an air pump, air stone, and Seachem prime. While you're drip acclimating them, you just put that Seachem prime in there. I usually do 2 mils to a gallon of water, which is a lot, but it seems to work. And I've literally seen fish sit with that air stone right under their chest and let the bubbles go up over their gills, up through their gills. Fish that probably should have died, I've seen come out of it and actually thrive after. So air pump, air stone, Seachem prime, huge win for dealing with a fish that is in really rough shape after shipping.